Okay, hello, Taylor. We're so happy to be live with you.
Finally.
This is our first. Is this our first Instagram live?
So,
No, actually.
well, we did one where we made it.
Yeah, at the beginning of COVID, we had an Instagram live, but this is so much better. Such better news. Such a better topic. It makes perfect sense that we would do this with you because you were instrumental in us even having a shop in the first place. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Kind of.
Yes, it was beautiful timing. And did you meet Taylor first or did I?
You definitely did.
I did. Okay, we met. Oh, that's right. We met at an event in Laguna, and we saw your gorgeous rugs. And Chad was immediately inspired.
I know. I remember the exact rug that he was super drawn to. It was the hand painted face and just the wool, and he was like, "You've got to meet." And it was like one of you with the other one. It was like, "You've got to meet Chad. You've got to meet Jen." And it was just the way it worked out.
And very, very quickly, it evolved into we should do a collaboration. Oh my gosh, we could design like a capsule collection, and that was the first piece of us moving into the shop direction because our studio's only been photo video, and with you saying, oh, we could do this capsule collection, and then shortly thereafter we were working with a few of our clients, which are interior designers, a lot of them, and one of them has a sofa company, and she said, well, actually you could design, if you guys wanted to design a sofa, we could collaborate on that. And this came on the heels of the rugs, and then we were designing kitchen shelves, and then we just had a lot of things happen at once where it felt like the right thing to do. It kind of was like flowing in our direction. So we're like, okay, we're going to do this. And what is your degree in?
Industrial design.
Yes.
So product design, basically.
Product design. Yeah. Chad went from a degree in industrial design to being in a band and really being into that to
Chad in a band.
I don't even know. It was like philosophy, a little religion in there.
Yeah. Whole lot of roundabouts to get us
Then he started photographing the bands, and then he started photographing architecture and then interiors, and we've come full circle. So we're back to designing.
There we go. Designing product.
Yes. So let's talk about the collection. Spirit of Place is the name of the collection, which I absolutely love. And each of our rugs, thank you. Each of our rugs, and overall, which I can't wait, Taylor, for you to talk more about this part of it, is this isn't just another rug collection. We really, really were mindful with why we wanted to do this collection with you. And once we found out your process and how you really empower these beautiful women in the high Atlas Mountains of Morocco, and you have had your feet on the Moroccan earth for a long period of time working directly with them, we were just like, we were sold, we were in. And then on our part, I think how you do one thing is how you do everything. And with our own home and in our own life, I don't think we've ever done anything halfway. Especially not if you're involved.
I know.
And it's aesthetics.
I could imagine it half with you guys, the creative engine.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's like every part of our home is curated, some new pieces, but some vintage pieces. And we really have this kind of mode of designing that is like, it has to stand for something deeper than just, here's another rug collection because we're so cool and you want to buy a rug. Like, that's not it at all. We really wanted to create pieces that could bring intention into spaces. So I think when we named it Spirit of Place, it kind of encapsulates not only that design concept, but also the spirit behind how you make these rugs, which we'll get into here in a bit. So we have 5 pieces. What's your favorite? That was one of our Q&As from, so Taylor, you go first.
Right.
Yeah, that was one of the questions from the viewers is, do you have a favorite rug?
I do have a favorite. Obviously, I know what my favorite's going to be. My personal favorite is the ceremony rug, and just the way that the birth of that idea. And then we'll get into that story in a little bit. But just how, I guess I'll tell the story now.
Yes, tell it. I love it. And you stole my answer.
Like, I don't want to take away. We can both kind of chime in because it was a very multifaceted experience. But basically, I was doing my own ceremony out in Joshua Tree, and Jen was in Ojai. And then when I was driving back after my ceremony, I really started thinking about, I really wish that I was doing the ceremony on a rug, because I was kind of outside, and just the entire time I was in the back of my mind, I was like, man, if I personally in this last experience had a space where I felt that everything was contained and just kind of in my own experience, that would have just been a game changer. And then I kind of started realizing in the rug world, there isn't really anything like that, an intentional piece for ceremony. So then I was like, we should do a ceremony rug. And then lo and behold,
yes, we get on our
meanwhile in Ojai.
And I have been doing tea ceremony, tea sits for the last year or two. And I just had the same thought, like, wow, I really want to create a rug that is like no rug I've ever seen. And we did it, by the way, because I don't know of any other rug that exists like this, that has a straight edge, and also design element wise, our kitchen tile, we're collaborating with Arto Brick on that, and we chose this kind of pencil eraser tile, which is basically a half round. And then the shape of our sofa also is a half round. And so I saw the shape of this rug with the flat edge coming up with this half round shape that, where the flat edge can go against the wall. And this is the part that I love so much. You're like picking up, I want us to create a ceremony rug. I'm picking up, I want us to create a ceremony rug. And then we just start describe, we're like, oh, I see.
On the phone, we're literally having this entire conversation.
Yes, like, oh, there are all these lines of energy. I'm like, I see all these lines of energy going through it, and some of the energy goes out, and there's a circle contained in the middle. And you and I were just like on our own wavelength. And then at the end of that,
Chad.
I actually have it. Hold on, wait. No, I have Chad. Hand me that. I have that.
Lo and behold, the entire conversation that we were just plotting away, Chad is over there with his little sketch and brings out this beautiful.
He goes, you mean like this? That literally is the rug that was created, called our ceremony rug. And to my knowledge, there is no other rug that, and this is what I love. It's conscious creation. It's creating from an internal place outward, instead of, oh, who's doing it? Oh, that person's doing that, I'll emulate it. No, it's coming from an original place. And I think that's a really important part of being a creator, is knowing how to kind of tune into your own original creativity and express that outward. And I think that's just a really,
especially in the case of, rugs, it's something that, at least for me with my business, that I've always tried to steer away from just producing quantity, because there's really it's super transactional, and it's fine to be able to have products come in and out. But back to what we were talking about, intentional, with whatever you're consuming, whether it's food, whether it's things that you're filling in your house. A lot of people aren't aware that everything has a frequency and an energy, and how it's made, whether it's by man or it's by a machine, or whether it's in a good environment and really cultivated with love and intention, which is kind of why the ceremony rug is my favorite, because it was just such a organic, like, creative birth that we had. And it was just like the way that all happened so seamlessly was just so exciting. And then, as you two know, the process of the experience of trying to relay that and working this very closely with my Moroccans, who are very near and dear to my heart, but there is a lot of language barrier there. And so it was months of just back and forth, and we got so nitty gritty with the details. And I'm so happy that we did, because it's such a special piece, and there's nothing like it. So that's my
I cannot wait. I'm so excited. Okay, so Chad, what's your favorite?
My favorite is the first rug that we designed.
Oh, I love
because it's super 70s, which I love.
Yes.
And I mean, so we named it Limitless, which is
Yes.
great. I love the name. It's a sun on the horizon in essence, which I think is so fun. And back to that slow process, right? We drew this out, and we kind of had like radiating lines and all these things kind of going at angles. And then we got the sample back from Morocco, and we were like, oh, that looks like an octopus legs. Like it was just chaos.
Different.
So you know, so it was like back to the drawing board. What are we gonna do? How are we gonna change it? And I think what we came up with, and what actually the people in the village help us come up with, because you know they kind of offer suggestions on ways to make that actually work. And I just love the way. I mean, I remember the day that we got the sample. Taylor drove them up, and we were in our sunroom in Jen's meditation room, and we just unraveled it onto the floor, and we all just kind of stood there and looked at it. We were like, what? Because it is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And it looks like a piece of, I mean, it is a piece of art.
It is a piece of art. Actually, someone said that. My friend, when she came over, she goes, oh my God, this is a work of art. You could hang this on your wall.
Yeah.
And it's true. I mean, I guess you could always hang any of these on a wall.
What's so great about it, it really does feel like we went to some amazing store and bought some amazing vintage 70s.
Wait, did you go to Mellon shop to get that?
You can. That's definitely a possibility. But it just feels so vintage. It feels so, you know, so
70s.
70s handmade, not, you know, made in another.
Oh my God, the quality of the wool, which we'll get to, how you pulled that off, Taylor.
Well, and the story, I had the story of that, because it's so funny that you're saying it's so 70s, and then you two know about the story of how we had to have that rug kind of be brought in, because that particular weaving style, the high-low pile with that wet wool, that specific style was actually lost for a couple decades. And so
tell that story. Once we decided we want this high-low pile, because we weren't seeing a lot of that at all. I don't know that we were seeing, maybe there was like one person doing it.
Well, because as soon as you think Moroccan rug, you think like patterns and lines and
The
black and white.
traditional-
It's very specific. And
Right.
so I just knew that we weren't into the graphic elements as much. We wanted more of like a soft graphic.
For 70s.
So
kind
the
of
high low pile thing, I think, was what we were interested in. But
yeah, and then I'll let you share, Taylor, once we decided this is what we want to do, you were like, so we put some problem solving, more problem solving. How much problem solving did we have in this process? It
Light
only
problem.
took us a cool year to get this.
yeah,
light problem. Nobody knows how to do it. We'll just find someone, no worries. We'll just, go around all the different villages and pull out all the stops. And lo and behold, we were really, really fortunate. One of the women that actually is kind of head honcho in the village, she unfortunately had to have eye cataract surgery, which was another challenge that we had during this entire collection, which was just full of challenges. And it was just amazing to see how persistent we were and how passionate we were. And there's just so many things. And that's why I love this collaboration so much, because all three of us, so many things come up and we were always just really determined. But we did end up having the fortunate kind of connection of bringing someone who is a rug maker's aunt, the great aunt. She is 70 years old. Her name is Toda. And she actually learned how to be doing this specific style back in the 70s. Her grandmother taught her. So we had her come and do a little training with all of the younger women. And it was really amazing, because the feedback that I got was something that I wasn't expecting, which was kind of a bridging of between the older generation and the younger, which is something that we're very familiar with. And it's over there, it's a completely different way of doing things. And so there is a little bit of not friction, but just kind of a difference in perspective amongst the rug makers between the older and the younger generation. So this was such a good opportunity for that to kind of bridge, and for us to bridge those old traditions into modern, minimal designs that, like you said, Chad, we're not super in the traditional Moroccan sense of, these hard lines or, these soft, just hand knotted piles. It was more so playing with the pile heights and letting it bounce from, the sun coming and hitting this wall or doing fun things like that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that story. I just love that part of the process. And me sitting as a Western white woman, I am going, wow, I feel both incredibly excited and also very humbled at the thought that because we are following this creative breadcrumb and doing this rug collection somewhere in the high Atlas Mountains, I have bridged, indirectly, we have bridged, we collectively have bridged this older, grandmother taught artisan lineage from older generation to younger. That to me is like, okay, well then, okay, that's it. Mic drop. That's it. I'm happy. I'm happy with this outcome.
Great job, everybody. Great job.
Totally.
But yeah, true. I mean, even about it, like a lot of those traditions over there hold so near and dear to their culture are getting lost because we're incorporating technology and everything's getting modernized, which is great. But on the other side, there's this, art that has been passed down from generation to generation. So
for thousands of years, right? Thousands of years. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm talking like this is thousands of years old in their heritage. And so, that's kind of the reason why I loved doing this collaboration with you guys was because it really truly was an open conversation. It's not like we just gave them this designs and we're like, hey, do it. It was a very lengthy process of back and forth and their feedback too of, this isn't going to work, or what about implementing this idea, which I'll let Jen get into the wabi sabi rug, but that's kind of how that happened. So yeah, it was full of all these twists and turns, and it makes it so much more than just selling rugs, because this is truly a collection, and it's taken time, and I'm really, really proud of it.
Yes, me too. Okay, so you kind of gave it away, but my favorite rug is the wabi rug. And it's so funny because, I think you said this, you're like, somebody's like, oh, create a rug collection. And you're going, like there are no rules there. It's infinite, possibility, and to take conceptually and start to narrow that down and then actually come up with solid designs that translate into not only each rug standing alone on its own, but also it weaves this idea within a collection.
Yep.
And that was so fun. I mean, so fun and also so challenging. And that's why it took us a year to get this designed. But the wabi rug, I had seen some designer that had posted this wall of tile, and there was this like brick red kind of grout in between this handmade natural colored rectangular tiles that were like stacked, straight. It was perfect. And that's what I sent to you. I was like, oh my God, this tile inspired me. I don't know why, like something's lighting up inside of me. I love this perfect tile. Instead of red, like make it tobacco color and like send this off to the women. And what we got back.
Not exactly perfect lines.
Perfect, like everything was symmetrical. Send it off. What did we get back, Jen?
What we got back was wabi sabi, which I remember looking at it together. You were like, he just texted me this. And I looked at the thing and I was waiting for your response, but then I was like, is it crazy that I kind of love this? And you were like, I was waiting for you to say something, but I love it too. Yes. And it's like, it starts with the rectangles chopped in half. Mm-hmm. No two rectangles are the same size on the whole thing. It's very
They start small, they get longer, they kind of
congruent. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which is why I named it wabi, because of that term, wabi sabi, which is the acknowledgement of impermanence and imperfection being perfect. And I think it was you who said that life happens in the imperfect. imperfection. And you said that right. Was that you?
That's my wisdom.
That was your wisdom.
And then Homer,
I need to like quote Chad Mellon on the site.
It may have been a dictionary definition. I don't know.
No, and you know, I love this because it's at our front door, and that's the part that gets the most in our house, which we'll photograph and put up later. But it gets the most traffic. Because you know it's beautiful high pile, and it's like we have to vacuum it the most, and it speaks to that messiness and imperfection being the stuff that is actually the richness of life. So that to me holds a really special significance, that wabi sabi.
it's so funny. I was on the other end and I was like, do I be honest and say like, I actually really like this, even though it's not what we expected? And then I was just kind of on the other end, and then you're like, I kind of really like it. And I was like, oh, thank God. Like, I really like it too. So it's almost with how I like the use of the word imperfection, because it's almost one of those things that you think the grass is greener on the other side. And then when you actually get it, it's this like overwhelming, just like breath of fresh air, because it's just so like relatable. And it's,
Yes.
I love the design of it. It's so funky. It's like perfect amount of funkiness to the collection.
Yes.
There's part of me, and we haven't talked about this before, so we can delete this if you want, but there's part of me that kind of visualizes, you know, like these spunky women in Morocco getting that picture and going,
Yeah.
No.
I'm going to show them what they want, you know.
Literally.
That is to copy, paste, cut, paste perfection. How about this iteration?
We got the Picasso version.
And I hope that's the truth, because they were right. You know, once you see that Wabi version, you're kind of like, oh, I don't want anything. I don't want anything else. But then we have two more rugs. They didn't make our favorite list, but
Oh, I love our other ones.
I love our other rugs too. There's one called Flow, and it's a runner. Basically, the lines of energy come in one side, they flow up, and they go out the other. And the visual that I get, because it's, I mean, a runner usually goes in the hallway. I get this, for me personally as a mom, I'm always seeing like the kids running back and forth and coming in and out, and guests walk down it to go to our guest room. And there's just life flowing in and out, and it just feels like,
the rug of life.
yeah, exactly. Feels like ebb and flow. And then the last one is our signature shag, which I just want to like roll around on and walk over. Oh my gosh.
That rug comes to just, it's like sexy. That's what that rug
It
is.
kind of is, right? It's like classic, sexy, just like statement piece without trying too hard.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long would you say the shag is? Like at least an inch, maybe inch and a half?
Definitely at least an inch. I would probably have an inch and a half.
Yeah, it's pushing it.
We'll have to measure it.
Yeah.
And then it just has these classic like three bars, three lines on opposite corners that kind of represent our logo, a little nod to our logo, which is really fun, but very classy. That's our classy rug. I mean, they're all classy, but that one's our very, very classy classic.
You know?
Oh wait, you were breaking up. What'd you say?
I said it's the simple, timeless piece. You know, everything has its own personality. All the rugs have their own. That one is classy gal.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so now I want to move on to this idea of slow design and conscious consumerism, because it's something that I think is so worth conversation and having conversation around. I mean, you know that about me. I'm from the fashion background, and I have had my own line, which I did very slowly, very consciously, very sustainably, as much as I possibly could to my knowledge base. And I basically broke all the rules, did it all my own way. Just, I was like, but I think the conversation around fast fashion is one that's been had, and if people are familiar with, there's that beautiful documentary, The True Cost, which we watched and we both just bawled, like, years ago. And there hasn't really been much public conversation around, slow design in terms of home goods, textiles, and things of this nature, which, like you mentioned earlier, it's something you put on your body. We are the Western privileged side of the bridge that has the power to really be a global citizen and make an impact with how we're spending our money. And when you know better, you do better. And we're learning along with all of you. We're learning as we go, because I certainly didn't know, half the stuff that I've learned from you, Taylor, just on the rug game.
Yeah.
So
And most people don't. And the only reason that I did is because I worked, and I lived in a place where it was exposed to me, all of the extortion that was happening. And I know we talk about, consumerism and capitalism and, the nature of competition, but it is something that needs to be discussed more, because I think it's something that if more people knew about, then they would really take a different approach towards. And ignorance is kind of not bliss right now. But just as far as, without kind of jumping the gun or getting ahead of it, I think my advice for anyone, with anything, is just to make sure that you know who your source is and that you trust them, because there's a lot of problems right now, especially in the rug world, both within Morocco, within that entire system, and the competition between, if you talk about going into the souks and you go into Marrakesh and you go into all these big cities and you are walking down and you think that you're getting all these rugs. Well, what I found out is that actually majority of the people that are working in there, it's their way of life, it's how they make a living, but those rugs are not made from the artisans in the mountains. So there's a huge disconnect between the artists in the mountains, who are isolated, and the only real source of contact they have are these big businesses coming in, and they will, pay low, sell high, that kind of thing. For so long, that has kind of been the standard. And, that's actually how Madouk got born. When I was living in Essaouira and I became really, really close with all these artisans, I watched it happen of multiple times, people coming in and buying low and selling high, which again is totally fine, but those artisans were not being paid properly at all. And I was watching it happen in front of me, and it was happening so often. And when I asked questions, that was the answer I got, which was, this is the system and this is how it's done. So I think, again, if a lot more people knew about what was going on, they would be a lot more aware with who they were purchasing things from. And I definitely think it's more of a responsibility to educate yourself on, who you're supporting and who it's going to. But it can be difficult, because just transparency is unfortunately not where it should be with these big businesses.
What about something like going and purchasing a rug on Etsy or something like that? Is that similar?
Yeah.
I would think, I know we've had this conversation, and I've even had friends like, oh, I shop a lot on Etsy, and I'm going to purchase I can go on there and ask a Moroccan to make a rug. Is that sustainable because it's local, or?
Well, so the irony is that and this is just specifically for rugs with Morocco. I can't speak on anything else. This is what I do. So this is what I know. Etsy, Moroccans are not given access to Etsy. So anybody that you're talking to on Etsy that says that they're Moroccan, they're not, because you cannot register an account on Etsy from Morocco. So anybody that says that they are a Moroccan on Etsy, they're actually doing it third party, which kind of opens Pandora's box for exactly that. You don't know who the third party is, and you don't know who the actual artisans are. You don't know what village they're in. You don't know what material they're working with. And a lot of villages, just because it comes from a village, unfortunately, it comes down to what sheep do they use, how do they wash their wool, where do they get their plants from, what's their drying process, their dyeing process. There's so many different factors that go into making a rug, which is why when you go on Etsy and you find a rug for $300 or $400, it's not real. And even if it says it's real, and even if it says it's handmade and it's all these things, without saying too much, I personally, just in my experience, I have come into contact with people who have purchased a rug from Etsy and other big brands that, again, I won't name, but they've had severe problems with them, such as physical allergic reactions. I had someone that they bought a rug from a big brand. They said it was all handmade, 100% fair trade, all of these things. And they laid on it and they had like a big rash from like their cheekbone down to their jaw. And it's because it was polyester and it's plastic fibers from China. So there is that dark side of it, and which is why it's important to talk about. But again, I think that instead of just shedding light on all these problems, I think to have a solution and to be able to create a space where consumers can trust the products that are coming in, that they're high quality, that the people that are making them are being paid properly, because those people have close actual relationships with the whoever it is, you know, outside of my own business. And there are other rug companies that do this. So they're not all bad, but again, just my advice to anyone purchasing anything is make sure you know what the story is. I always ask all of my clients when it comes to conscious consumerism, there's 3 questions that you always have to ask yourself with anything. Who made it? What is it made out of? And where does it come from?
Yeah, we've talked in depth about those 3. Which to me, it really comes down, what I hear you saying is find a rug maker that you trust, that's vetted the process, that you know the women in the village are getting the money they deserve. And I mean, that even can go into microloans so that they can expand their business. I mean, the possibilities there are, which I know we're talking about, and, you know, expanding on how can we, it really comes down to how can we, as a privileged Western consumer, still love beautiful spaces and beautiful design, but how can we bridge over to empowering these artisans to be able to take a legacy that stems back to their grandmother and their great grandmother and their great great grandmother before that for thousands of years. Like, they're the ones with all of this artistry. How can we empower them, pay them, invest in them, and help them keep that alive just by purchasing a rug, like, right. Or in our case, you know, purchasing a rug and creating this rug line to introduce to our audience, which may not be, you know, aware, like you said, of all this stuff going on, like the stories you've told me.
Yeah, but it's each product its own story, and I think it also makes it fun, you know, instead of it being transactional, just base. It's like you're buying something that you know this entire story that now you have an emotional attachment to, and you get to share that story with anybody that comes into your space. And that energy, you know, right, you can tell when you walk into a house or a space anywhere and you're like, oh, like I can take a breath, like, wow, this feels so good. There's something about this I can't put my finger on. Well, it's probably because the space was really curated with amazing things that fill it. So yeah, I think it's just something that more people are trying to be aware of, and it is catching on. You know, there is definitely an awareness of, as far as being conscious of what we're consuming physically, you know, with food and with our water and all of that. And I think we're starting to move into a period of time where now there's a lot of events and there's a lot of big brands that are wanting to put on events that everything is sourced, you know, fair trade and handmade, which is really exciting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's like everything else in collective consciousness right now, it's moving from the self and the I to the whole and the we. And that's really, to me, what being a global citizen is about. It's that awareness that, oh, okay, yes, there is a me, but then there's also a global we. And I can participate in making that a better partnership just through what I already do every day, which is, you know, purchase beautiful things.
You do that every day?
Not every single day. Anyways, moving on. Let's talk about practicals. Let's talk about practicals. Wait, what was that?
I said, this is the deleted scene part.
Yeah, that's right.
Can you edit this live video? Google. That was me Googling.
So Taylor, can you tell us a little bit about where the wool comes from?
Somebody
Yeah.
asked that. Yeah.
Yes, we have a few questions.
So the wool actually comes from the local shepherd in this particular region. It's the Atlas Mountains, and the town is Azilal. And we were supposed to go on a trip to Azilal this last year, and unfortunately COVID and, all the other things with life got into that, but we will be going back. But I try to go back to this village at least once a year just to kind of reconnect with them and, see what's going on. And 2 years ago when I went, it was amazing because I was introduced to the local shepherds there, and they're all in the same family. Because what I actually learned today, which was exciting, from Abdillah, it's the rug guy, he told me that the way that they used to make rugs thousands of years ago, hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, they actually started making it with goat fur.
Oh, wow.
And the goat fur, they would actually I'll send you pictures and maybe we can put this somewhere, but they would make tents out of goat fur, and they would live in these tents. And then they needed to get the temperature started getting, colder. So then they started realizing this is how they got into the sheep. So then they started realizing we need something warmer. And so then they moved on to the sheep. And so now all of our rugs are sourced from the local sheep that are probably, when I was staying in the house, I could see the hill where they were. So it's really not that far. But everything is kind of within this own village. And so, it's all within the same family. The artisans that we work with, there's 93 women, and they're all in the same, house, so to speak. So it's just kind of a big, big party over there, big community. And so the process of getting the wool from the sheep and the shearing of the sheep, which is all 100%, sustainably, they don't hurt any sheep in the process. And then the women take that wool after it's been sheared and they go down to the river. And there's a river because Azilal is in a mountain region. So there's actually a waterfall that's not too far from the mountains. And it's crazy. I went to the waterfall and I was like, there's no way I'm in Morocco right now. I felt like I was in, I don't know, Costa Rica or something. There was monkeys everywhere. I was so confused. I was like, what is going on? Where am I? What is happening? And lo and behold, at the bottom of the waterfall, there's this river. And so the women, they come and they put all of the wool on their back, and then they walk to the river and they wash it with stones, big, big stones, and they wash it.
Wow. Wow.
And then go and collect. This is my favorite part because when I was in Morocco, my best friend that I was living there with, she's a herbologist. And so she was super, super into different plants and sourcing it from different regions. And so what I learned is that in these different villages, they use specific plants for colors. In our collection, we used walnuts to be able to get that smoky, I know we call it tobacco brown, but it's just walnut. And it's the way that the color is a little bit different between the rugs, just has to do with drying time in the sun. So they can
because one is a very light sand brown, one is a milky chocolate brown, and then the Wabi rug has that tobacco
Which
brown.
I will say was a very interesting process. We would say, we want to do something kind of in a tobacco color. And they would go, cool, iPhone photo sent from
really
Morocco.
bad lighting.
We're like,
I'm like,
yes,
yeah.
that works.
Just go ahead and make it, and
Yeah.
we'll see when we.
Tell them
It's a toss up.
whiskey. I'm like, I don't think they know what whiskey is, but I'll just tell them whiskey,
Yeah, that's right. Dark whiskey, Japanese whiskey. What are we talking about?
Wow, how fascinating. And this is what I mean by just being a conscious American consumer. I can allow and empower these women to continue going to the waterfall, washing, doing what they have done for thousands of years, living their essence, which is a really beautiful thought. It's a really beautiful thought.
So when you're with them, they have, just the entire process of rug making and the bond that all these women share. They have rug making songs, and so they will just sing these songs. And that's actually how I got started doing Madouk. When I was working in Morocco, and it was a completely different lifetime, and I was going through some things, I actually would fall asleep to hearing the women on the loom just singing these songs. And it was so, I don't know, there's just something. So I was 20, I was 23 living in Morocco, and I was super isolated from my family and just didn't know where I was in life. And there was something about that so like nurturing and like motherly, just like, I like how you said the essence of who they are, because this has been their ancestral history that's just been poured down. And there's something that is so pure about what they do and the reason why they do it. And it's just not tainted by any other, perceptions. It's just something that's super rare to find out. So
well, that is why when we unrolled that first rug, we all were like, speechless. It's such a different feeling than, in my opinion, I'll just say, like ordering it from a big box store as their practices stand now. Now we hope to change that and create like this type of sustainable practices throughout rug making in mass. Yes, we're headed there.
Absolutely.
But you can feel.
Oh yeah.
You can feel the vibration of how, not to get too woo-woo, but you can feel the love, the songs, the ancient artistry that is in the craftsmanship that are in these rugs. I mean, it is like nothing I've ever seen before.
I know, it's a portal.
Yeah, it is. It's just, it's so beautiful. Oh, I love it. Okay, so let's move on to some last questions from some of our friends on Instagram. One question was, can I order a custom size? And we know the answer to that is
absolutely
yes. You'll have to contact us through our website. It's mellon-studio.com, which there's a link, there'll be a link in our bio and on our stories, or you can just send us a direct message and tell us what rug you're interested in, what size you want it in. And then Taylor, this is a question for you. We didn't really discuss this beforehand, but say somebody wants a ceremony rug in like a blush color. Can you do custom colors?
You can
Obviously, there will be an added cost to that, but
there will be an added cost to it, just because depending on what color it is, we have to find whatever plants those are. But because we have, exclusive access to 93 women, it really gives us flexibility to handle pretty much any custom orders. I mean, we know from the shape of the ceremony rug that they are able to kind of handle whatever we throw at them.
And they've completely innovated just by going, and we're not traditional rug makers, so we think outside of the box when it comes to pretty much all things design. So we're kind of like, what if we did it this way? And they completely rose to the challenge. Okay, so, beautiful.
Sizes, colors, like Jen said, either just send Madouk a message or Mellon a message, and we will absolutely get that sorted.
Okay, so Chad, I have another question.
Can I just say, if you decide that you want a very hot pink rug, they can do that as well.
They could do it
from bugs. Just telling you, bugs.
He knows. So, he knows.
Ew.
It's a bug rug.
It is a bug rug. There are.
I have a friend who's a textile artist. I hope to do a collab with her too, and she does batch dyeing with roses and beetles. Yeah. To come up with this gorgeous, like deep pink color. Yeah. Anyways, it's a thing.
I like it.
Rugs.
Okay, so Chad, someone asked this question. I'm gonna address this. Is like impromptu. You don't even know what's coming.
Nervous.
Okay, get your jitters out.
Yeah.
Their question is, what has been your favorite part of the process?
Definitely not the iPhone photos. Can I start with what I didn't like?
Chad would be like, what? How can I tell from that? I can't commit to this. He's Mr. Perfectionist. Can you imagine? And he's like, can you take 5 more pictures in different lighting and different angles?
Yeah. What I did love is getting the iPhone photos of like our rug hanging on the side of a wall in Morocco with like kids playing soccer in the foreground and like goats over there. That was awesome. I was like, my rug was hanging in Morocco with goats and kids playing soccer.
It automatically has soul.
Yeah.
Just like, because it was not made in a factory somewhere, creating a ton of waste and pollution.
That was an incredible thing to see. I think my favorite process is.
Favorite part of the process.
I mean, coming up with ideas is really fun.
I was gonna say, like,
the design part's really fun. Yeah. And then, of course, you have the like ebb and flow of the working out the kinks.
Yeah, a lot of troubleshooting.
Troubleshooting is not my favorite part, but we handle it.
Don't worry, Taylor and I, we've got you on that.
I'm like, why can't you just do it like we drew it?
Dad's like, I want a straight line. I'm like, no, can do.
Yeah.
Got to do a machine for straight lines.
That's right. I'm like, why don't they line up? Because it's made by hand.
You have, I will say, like, you also have risen to the challenge because you have really come into like an affection for this imperfect kind of like, no two rugs will be exactly the same, and no lines are going to be exactly straight. I just think that's, the more I realize, oh God, machine made rugs, they're boring. They're
Right.
like very linear, very, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry to, and I'm not saying I love every rug maker. Well, no, I don't. That's not true. That's not to poo-poo on anybody. And that's just to say, like, when you see a handmade rug versus a machine rug,
There's
you
no
know the
fun.
difference. Yeah, you know the difference.
Yeah. When we unroll them, we're always like, that's magic.
I
There's so much soul in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I love watching you do the design part because it's very like, oh my gosh, I had this idea, like, and then I hit him in the face.
That's usually how it goes. I get slapped around a little bit.
This is the concept, this is the idea, and it's all up here, and then it filters through Chad's like very precise. This is how you do one thing is how you do everything. The way that he can shoot a project and like see every detail to the point where sometimes he's more detailed than even the designer, the interior designer. And that says something. That's why so many people want him to photograph their projects, because of that attention to detail. And my big ideas and concepts have filtered through his lens of incredible detail. And that has gone through you to the makers, which have taken it and created their own interpretation to a degree. I mean, not a large margin, but like you said, it wasn't perfect, but it was a beautiful interpretation of that. And I think that just made it magic.
I think they put their own original, spin on it. And then when we get it back, we're like, oh my goodness, because it's just it's more than like what we wanted, and it's more than what we expected.
I'll say it's interesting because I throw ceramics, and it's funny because when you're so used to going to Target or wherever these places, sorry,
You said the T word.
to Target, it's French, very French. You're usually going to these places and buying perfect ceramics that everyone on the shelf is exactly the same thing, exactly the same color, exactly the same shape. And you start throwing ceramics and you're like, that is literally impossible to do.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe somebody can do it, but most people can't do it or aren't really trying to do that. It just gives you such an appreciation for that handmade product, that slow product, that aesthetic of a little more relaxed, a little more imperfect, but still like so much. I mean, when someone's making something with their hands, it's incredible.
Yeah, there's something about it. Yeah. Not that we don't love Target, because we do. And we'll get to the place where we're doing a collaboration for Target, and it will all be incredibly sustainable and take this process, like I said, to the masses. But yeah, it's handmade is where it's at. It's just.
Did you hear that, Taylor? You ready?
Yeah, of course.
Go. Bring it on. Of course.
Okay, last question. Taylor, this is also impromptu, so I am, okay.
Yeah.
What is your price point?
Good question.
So here's what I will tell you that I know about our price point, because going through it with you is, from the rug makers that we know do this process well, we're not the lowest and we're not the highest. I feel like we kind of embody that middle space very well, where it's like, no, we're not like the lowest, because we're going to give a little more back to the women, and I say give an extra percentage back to each maker that makes the rug. So for example, if we sell one ceremony rug and it was made by 3 women, we give a percentage to those 3 women on top of the fair trade wages that we've already paid them. So we're not the lowest, but also we're not the highest, because we know what it costs to make these rugs, and we're not coming in at the highest. So what is our range?
So our range, kind of talking just from a rug perspective in the rug world, the average range is, I mean, anywhere when you go to, and you kind of find
Don't
on
say names.
I almost just slipped. I almost just said it, but I didn't. So the average range, kind of depending from $17 a square foot, all the way up to, you know, I've seen anywhere from like $75 a square foot for a lot of interior designers. We're kind of right in that middle range. Again, I think it was super intentional that we wanted to reach more people, and we wanted to make this collection a little bit more available. And so it just wasn't super, super exclusive, which I know that was kind of what we talked about in the beginning. And then we changed gears because, you know, we want to be able to help these women, and we're super proud of these designs, and why not make it available for more people, and make it affordable. And that is kind of the problem with some of these bigger, is the margin that they have is so big, and it doesn't need to be that big. You know, they don't really need to be that expensive. And so you do know that all of your money is going and it's supporting these women directly, and we're putting it directly into their pocket, as Jen said, on top of the labor and material and the fair trade that they get. Each woman, depending on however many rugs that you order, every woman that has touched the hands of a rug that you have ordered makes their own percentage on that. And that's just kind of in the discretion of how I do business and how we've talked about doing this collection, because they deserve it. So,
Yes.
you know, it's in the middle bracket, but your money counts.
Well, I love that. And it's part of, it's again, circling back to that theme of being a conscious consumer, being a global citizen. It's not about profit over people anymore. And yes, there is a margin of profit involved. I mean, I don't even think that we could break down the amount of hours we put in this. Like, there's no way. No matter what, we're basically volunteers right now.
Pro bono.
But it is about that people over profit at this point. People over profit, because to be very transparent, like, and I'm sure that you fall in the same, I know you, and in your value system that you fall in the same, and Taylor, you probably do too. But when I think about our first rug sale, the most exciting element of that is sending the order through and giving the women the work, you know? And I think, oh my gosh, of course I want to sell rug after rug after rug, because I just want, I can just imagine their excitement. Like I can feel it, like what it would feel like going, oh, here's Friday, we're sitting in our rug orders, and the women going, oh, we have this many projects to do, let's go. And they start singing their songs and doing their thing. Like, that is by far the most exciting part about the whole thing for me.
We're super excited. They're excited, you know, they are very, very excited about this launch. They're like, oh, I'm getting messages from them that they're just ready to some, you know, epic rugs.
I love it. So that all depends on you beautiful humans watching, and that will be watching in the future. The rugs, we feel like the designs stand on their own without, you know, the deeper meaning, intention behind them and the way that they're made. But once you know that, and you're, you know, privy to that story of how the rugs are made and the women that it's impacting, and the good that you can do in the world just through your consumerism, I'm very excited to have you guys be the bridge to give these women just tons and tons of work. So mellonstudio.com is where you can go to see our collaboration with Madouk. It is live, and we cannot wait to be the bridge to take this artistry and fill your spaces with all kinds of beauty. Thank you all.
Bye guys. Thank you.
all.